I clock in when most of the city is clocking out. The office is quiet at night, just the hum of the vending machine and the occasional rattle of skateboard wheels from the kids who practice tricks outside. The silence makes it easier to think, to draw. And that's all I really have time for: think, draw, survive. I'm the midnight designer. That's what they call me, half joking, half forgetting I exist in the daylight. My name is Ava. I'm 31. A single mother. A woman who folds laundry with one hand and sharpens pencils with the other. I work the graveyard shift at Volt. A streetwear label that thinks it's a revolution. But the truth? It's run by a 27-year-old influencer who made her name off crop top hauls and hot takes on hustle culture. She says vibe more than she says value. She doesn't see me. None of them really do. I'm the ghost in the corner. The sketchbook in the worn-out tote. The face behind the intern who became a star. They celebrate youth here. Freshness. Aesthetic over effort. But what they don't know is that the tired woman in the break room is the one who drew half their identity. And I never bragged. Never corrected them when they assumed a junior made that jacket that sold out in 6 minutes. Because I thought one day I'd get my shot. Cute bag, Maya said one evening, pausing at my desk. Her lip gloss shimmered like the city skyline at 1 a.m. She was new, fresh out of Parsons, hired because she had 50K followers and a TikTok about sneaker design that went viral during finals week. She touched the edge of my tote. Sketchbook, she asked, like she was admiring a puppy. Yeah, I nodded. Just ideas. Mind if I peek? I smiled faintly. They're rough. Just concepts. She tilted her head. You're so humble, Ava. I love that. Then she walked off, long ponytail swaying like she owned the air. Later that week, my boss, Rin, CEO, former influencer, always on her phone, passed my desk and tossed me a glance. Not a word. Just the look. The "you're still here" look. I'd sent her a deck last month. 20 pages of sketches, street-style hybrids, West Coast denim reimagined through a mother's eye. I called it Thread Born. She never responded. The name was inspired by my son, Leo. Born between shifts. Between stitches. Between broken dreams I'd learned to re-sew. I went back to work. The fluorescent light above my desk buzzed like it had a grudge. My coffee had gone cold. The vending machine had run out of pretzels. And my sketchbook sat right beside me. Always beside me. Until the night it wasn't. That Friday, I was late picking up Leo from his aftercare program. Again. He was the last kid in the room, drawing dinosaurs on a paper towel with dried-up markers. Sorry, baby, I whispered, kissing his forehead. He smiled, resilient as ever. It's okay. I knew you'd come. He never asked where I'd been. He just knew I had to be there. At Volt. Doing what I loved. And I did love it. Even if it didn't love me back. The next morning, Instagram exploded. Volt had landed a contract with Zenith, the biggest urban wear distributor on the West Coast. They posted a preview of the capsule. Maya was tagged. Maya was in the video. Maya gave the speech. We call the line Thread/Born, it's about reimagining origins. Raw. Real. Rooted in rhythm. My heart fell through my spine. I stared at the screen. There it was. My line. My title. My sketches. Worn by models in back-alley photo shoots, stylized like rebellion, but those lines, those cuts, the asymmetrical denim edge on the third jacket, it was mine. Even the name. Thread Born. Word for word. And Maya wore it like skin. I walked into work Monday with shaking hands. My sketchbook was gone. Maya didn't look at me. Rin didn't look at me. Nobody did. The vending machine still buzzed. The city still spun. And I sat down at my desk, opened a blank page, and didn't draw a single line. But I did write something at the top of the page. I made her. Now I'll make her irrelevant. They stole from a woman who had nothing left to lose. And that's the most dangerous kind of artist. People think betrayal is loud. A slap. A scream. A thrown glass or broken door. But mine came with a screen flicker. An ad I didn't approve. And a voice I didn't recognize speaking my words in perfect pitch. It was a Tuesday. The day Leo has gym class and always forgets his sneakers. I was rushing, half sandwich in my mouth, phone on speaker, still loading up Maya's launch video for the third time. My fingers trembled. Not because I was surprised anymore. But because I kept hoping maybe I'd hallucinated it all. Maybe the jacket would be slightly different this time. Maybe she'd say something else. But no. Every stitch. Every curve. Every phrase I had whispered into my sketchbook during late-night commutes, it was all there. And she smiled when she said it. Smiled like she'd lived that pain. Like she'd earned it. I dropped Leo off. Walked him up to the school gate. He kissed my cheek, then ran off, holding his lunchbox like a trophy. My hands ached. Not from work. But from restraint. I walked back to my car and sat still. The engine was off. But my heart was a bonfire. When I walked into Volt, everything felt different. Or maybe I just saw it all clearly for the first time. The walls were lined with prints from the new campaign. Photos of models in my designs. Posters that said designed by Maya Stone in bold, white text. Stone. She said once that her real last name was Greenfield. But Stone felt cooler. Edgier. I should have known then. I took the long route to my desk, past the glass offices, past the conference room. And that's when I saw it. My sketchbook. On the table. Wide open. Its pages folded, marked with neon sticky notes. Like it was a public textbook. I pushed the door open. 3 people stood around it. Maya. Ren. And one of the marketing guys, Hunter, who once told me he liked my earrings and then forgot my name the next day. They looked up like I'd walked into a stranger's funeral. "Oh, hey Ava," Maya chirped. Too sweet. Too smooth. I stared at the sketchbook. She moved quickly, closing it with one polished nail. "Did you need this?" My voice was a whisper. "Where did you get it?" Her smile didn't budge. "Oh, it was just on one of the desks. We assumed it was a communal project thing." "Communal?" Rin leaned back in her chair, chewing a pen cap. "Look, Ava. What's your concern here?" "Concern?" "My concern is that the soul I stitched into that book is now hanging on mannequins while someone else signs autographs." I couldn't say that. So I just said, that was my private work. My name is on the inside cover. Maya blinked. I didn't see a name. I walked up, opened the book, and showed them. Right there. Faded pencil. Bottom corner. Designed by Ava Lane. All rights reserved. Rin shrugged. Still. It was on company property. I laughed. Once. Cold and hollow. That's your line? Maya tilted her head. I'm sorry if you feel like. Don't finish that sentence, I said quietly. They didn't. They didn't need to. The sketchbook was mine. The brand was mine. The blood behind it all, mine. But the success? That belonged to a woman who once asked me how to draw shoelaces. I left the room. Not like a hero. Not like a storm. Just like a woman who had just realized. They'd rather steal your voice than ever let you speak. I sat in the stairwell that night. No lights. Just the sound of the air vents and the echo of my own pulse. My phone buzzed. A message from my sister. Saw the new Volt line. That's your style, isn't it? You finally made it. Loudly crying face, red heart. I didn't reply. What could I say? Yes. That's my pain in a hoodie. My trauma in thread. My story with someone else's face. I got home late. Leo was asleep on the couch, TV still playing cartoons. His tiny sneakers were on the rug, one facing right, the other upside down. I stared at them. Shoes. How ironic. Maya had asked me once how I learned to sketch shoes. I'd told her it was because I used to draw sneakers while waiting in laundromats. They were Leo's first obsession. He'd point to shoes in magazines and say, "Draw that, Mommy." And I would. Now someone else had made millions off those sketches. And I couldn't even afford to buy Leo the new ones. I walked to my room. Pulled out the drawer under the bed. Inside was my first sketchbook. The one with torn pages and coffee stains. The one I started when I found out I was pregnant. Every design had a date. And a reason. One read. Drawn after Leo said he liked the yellow buses. Another. He got sick. I couldn't sleep. Drew through the night. Those were never just clothes. They were survival. They were motherhood in motion. And they took it. They put it on a runway and clapped for someone else. That night, I didn't cry. I brewed coffee. I sat down. And I drew. Not for them. Not for Volt. Not for Maya. For me. And for the woman I would become, the one who didn't need a seat at their table because she was building her own damn house. Viral one-liners from this scene. They stole my voice, and then called it their new collection. You don't get to plagiarize my pain and call it poetry. I drew through grief. She posted it on Instagram with filters. They expect rage. They expect you to scream, to send emails, to break something, to beg. But silence unsettles them more. Because silence means you're thinking. And a thinking woman is dangerous. I stopped speaking at work. No more good mornings. No more design notes passed under doors. No more advice to interns too young to know better than to trust smiles with sharp teeth. I showed up, did my hours, nodded when I had to. But inside? I was building an archive. Every email. Every print date. Every metadata tag on those design files they thought they'd erased me from. My silence wasn't emptiness. It was the quiet hum of a woman remembering everything. Leo noticed first. "You're quiet, Mommy," he said one morning, his mouth full of cereal. I looked up from my sketchpad. Just thinking. About shoes? I smiled faintly. Always. He nodded like that made perfect sense. And maybe it did. Because the truth is, my son is the only human on earth who's ever seen me create something and called it magic, without needing proof that it would sell. At work, Maya glowed brighter each day. The contract with Zenith gave her status. She moved from the shared tables to her own glass-walled office, with lead designer printed on the door like a middle finger in Helvetica. She started wearing clothes from thread //born every day. One morning, she walked in wearing the jacket. The first one I ever designed after Leo was born. Asymmetrical zip. Wide lapel. Raw hemmed edge that was meant to mirror the sleepless edges of my life. And now it hung on her like a trophy. She caught me looking. "You really like this one, huh?" she smirked. "I guess it's a fan favorite." I said nothing. My silence made her uncomfortable. Good. Because I wasn't just swallowing pain anymore. I was sharpening it. I watched her carefully. How she presented at meetings. What references she used when pitching new designs. I started hearing my own phrases echo back at me. Filtered through her mouth. Structured chaos. Urban maternalism. Narrative and thread. Things I had whispered into the dark while Leo slept beside me, now repackaged with hashtags and brand decks. I didn't cry anymore. I recorded. In my sketchbook, behind the new designs I started hiding again, I kept a timeline. June 3rd, Maya referenced motherhood as rebellion, my exact phrasing from last winter's mood board. June 8th, used thread / born again on a TikTok, without attribution. June 11th, my old concept tagged under hashtag Maya made on Instagram. They called it inspiration. But it was theft. They kept waiting for me to break. But I wasn't broken. I was busy. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's redirection. The first samples arrived in brown paper packages. No label, no logo, just weight. I opened them with scissors I hadn't used in months, the same ones I used to cut Leo's umbilical cord, the same ones I used to alter thrift store clothes just to make them fit for a job interview. There it was. The jacket. My jacket. But not the one they stole. This one breathed differently. Softer lines. Bolder collar. Sleeves that folded like memory. A little less marketable. A little more me. I tried it on in front of the mirror. And for the first time, I didn't look like someone else's ghost. I looked like someone unfinished. And powerful because of it. Nevaeh worked fast. Her team stitched every piece like they knew it was sacred. We didn't rush. We didn't mass produce. We honored every flaw. Because this wasn't just a collection, it was testimony. I named it, Ash Language. Because if they burned down the woman I was, then these clothes would be the language I spoke after. In the meantime, I kept showing up at Volt. Wore neutral sweaters. Tied my hair back. Pretended to be invisible. Maya walked by with heels that echoed louder than her thoughts. She was preparing for Paris Fashion Week. The Zenith contract had opened every door for her. She gave speeches on authenticity. Taught workshops on design integrity. And I smiled. Because I was watching a candle burn in a house made of mirrors. She didn't know it yet, but I had already started pulling the curtains. My launch plan was simple. No teasers. No countdowns. Just one drop. One night. One story. I designed a single-page site with Nevaeh's help. Dark background. White serif font. No branding. No bio. Just this. This is the story of a stolen life. But I've learned that stolen things can still return home as fire. Ash Language. And below that. PRE orders open, July 4th. I didn't use my name. Didn't send PR boxes. Didn't tag celebrities. But I did do one thing. I sent a package to Zenith Spire. Not with a resume. Not with a pitch. Just one jacket. And a card. Handwritten. You sold my name before you ever heard it. Try this one on instead. Weeks passed. Then days. Then the night came. Launch night. Leo fell asleep in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching my old tape measure like a bedtime story. I kissed his forehead. Then opened my laptop. Orders started pouring in. 1, 3, 7, 18. The site crashed once. Then came a message. Hi. Zenith here. Can we talk? I waited until morning. Then I answered. Only if Maya's not on the call. They agreed. That afternoon, I sat in the coffee shop across from their lead buyer, a woman in a trench coat who looked like she lived on oat lattes and knowing secrets. She took one look at me and said, "You made this, didn't you?" I didn't answer. She nodded anyway. "We've been watching Volt." And honestly, she shrugged, "It's gotten loud." Pretty. But loud. She held up my jacket. "This speaks." Then she leaned in, lowered her voice like she was offering a lifeline. "We'd like to talk exclusive distribution." I stirred my coffee. Quiet. Still. Then said, "I'm not interested in shelves. I want stories." That night, I walked into Volt for what would be the final time. Same squeaky vending machine. Same hallway of neon buzz. But something had shifted. Rin looked up when I passed her glass door. She stood. Followed. "Ava," she called. "Can we talk?" I turned. "Sure." We stepped into her office. She paced. "You've been doing something. Off the clock." I didn't deny it. "I've had people reach out," she said. "Asking who designed Ash language. Asking if it's you." I tilted my head. "Is it?" Her jaw clenched. "Maya thinks you're trying to sabotage her." Did she also think I was trying to inspire her? When she took my sketchbook. Silence. She sat down. "Look. This doesn't have to get messy. We could give you creative credit retroactively. Maybe even fold you into Maya's team." I stared at her for a full 5 seconds. Then I said, "I don't fold anymore." I cut. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard her whisper, "She's making a mistake." But I wasn't. I was making a beginning. The Ash language launch was featured in Hypelit, Vogue Underground, and a TikTok trend called #RealMothersDesign. People started posting photos with the caption, "This jacket feels like memory." Then came the real moment. Zenith posted this. "Our partnership with Volt ends this quarter. We believe stories deserve to be owned by their authors." Zenith. Maya went silent online for a week. Then deleted 3 of her promo posts. I didn't gloat. I didn't comment. I just uploaded a photo. Leo, in a miniature Ash language hoodie. His arms out. His eyes lit up. Caption. "He's always been the blueprint." Viral one-liners from this scene. They stole my voice, so I gave the world my silence. And they listened louder. When you build in the dark, no one sees the roots until the bloom breaks their window. You thought you buried me. I was blueprinting a brand. Some women fight with noise. Some women fight with tears. I fight with returns. Returns of memories. Returns of credit. Returns of every stolen thread, sewn back into my name. It began with the interview. Vogue Underground called it a quiet rebellion. The article was titled, "Ashes Speak Louder." They never named Volt. Never dragged Maya. But they quoted one line from me. "Sometimes you watch someone wear your skin like it's a costume. Then one day, you take it back." It went viral in 2 hours. The next morning, I walked into Volt one last time. Not as an employee, but as a guest. Rin had invited me in after Zenith pulled out. She said she wanted transparency. She was wearing sunglasses indoors again, always a sign of panic. I sat across from her in the conference room, sunlight slicing through blinds like a courtroom spotlight. Maya was already there. Dressed in black. Flawless. And cracking beneath it. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. Just stared. Like she was watching her reflection fade in real time. Rin opened her laptop. "We've had some confusion," she began. "Some attribution issues." I nodded. "Seems that way." Maya scoffed. Look, if you're here for a payout or something. I'm not. I placed my sketchbook on the table. The one with the faded pencil inscription. The one they had photocopied without permission. The one they didn't bother erasing metadata from. I'm here to give this back to myself. I slid a folder forward. Inside, timestamps, concept boards, email records, internal file logs. All traced to my account. All predating her designs. Rin opened it. Read the first page. Then the second. Maya's voice cracked. You can't prove. I don't need to. I leaned in, voice low and velvet. You already did. When you wore my grief on a runway. They sat in silence. For once, neither could spin. Because this wasn't about opinion. It was about origin. I wasn't just the artist. I was the mother of the art. And you don't copyright a soul. But you can still watch it walk away from you. I stood up. One last thing. I handed them a letter. Termination. Effective immediately. For me. Volt had no hold on me anymore. Because truth doesn't need an office. It needs a voice. And mine had finally stopped whispering. Outside, the elevator doors opened like a stage curtain. As I stepped in, Maya rushed after me. She held the jacket. My jacket. Now worn out. Creased. Stained at the collar. Like it had been loved too fast and too wrongly. You could have helped me, she said. I turned. My help was the silence I gave you. But silence ends. She swallowed. I looked up to you. I nodded. Then you should have looked longer. The doors closed. Elevator descended. And with each floor, I shed the layers they tried to bury me under. Ghost. Employee. Background noise. By the time I reached the lobby, I wasn't any of them. I walked outside. The LA sun hit me like a soft war drum. Across the street, a new billboard gleamed. Ash language. Designed by the hands that lived it. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from Maya. You win. I didn't reply. Because this was never a competition. It was a reclamation. I poured tea. Sat on the floor with Leo. He was cutting tiny felt squares with safety scissors. "Wanna make a new jacket?" he asked. I nodded. "What color?" He grinned. "Fire." I laughed. "Then we'll call it matchstick." He held up one small red triangle. "This is the heart." I kissed his head. "Yes, baby. Everything we make starts with that." Viral one-liners from this scene. She wore my pain like a runway look, but I stitched it into legacy. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy, and I used every quiet hour to reload. You called it inspiration. I called it theft. The world called it mine. I started staying late again. But not to work for Volt. I borrowed the office printer after hours. I saved PDF receipts of old submissions. I took screenshots of my design folders. Every file still had a lane_sketch_final in the metadata. They hadn't bothered to rename the ghosts. And when you don't delete the evidence, you hand your enemy the rope herself. At home, Leo played with his toy sewing kit. He made a cape from an old curtain and draped it on the dog. "Do you think I could make clothes when I'm big?" he asked. I looked at him. And I saw everything I was fighting for. "You already are," I whispered. "You just don't know it yet." Ren, the CEO, started acting strange around me. Like she could feel the storm coming, but couldn't name the direction. She sent me an email one day. "Hey Ava, just checking in. You've been a little quiet lately. Everything good?" I stared at it. Then closed the tab. Because people don't check in on ghosts, unless they realize ghosts can haunt. In silence, I started designing again. Not for Volt. For myself. I named the new collection Ash Language. Because sometimes, the only thing that can speak for the burned is the burn itself. It was darker. Angled. Motherhood without apology. Aesthetics shaped by survival, not aesthetics shaped to sell. And unlike before, I didn't draw in pencil. I drew in pen. Permanent. I went to meet with an old friend. Nevaeh. A woman I met at a fabric fair 5 years ago. She now ran a small but growing production house in downtown LA. She greeted me with arms wide and eyes soft. "I saw that Volt collection," she said. I tensed. She leaned in, her voice low. "It screamed you, Ava." But they screamed the wrong name. My fingers curled. "I have something," I said. And I opened my folder. 10 designs. No hashtags. No sponsors. Just pain, shaped into power. She flipped through the pages slowly. Then closed the folder. "Let's make it." Quietly. But big. I walked out into the LA night. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't shaking. Because the silence had ended. Not through screams. Not through chaos. But through strategy. They thought I disappeared. But I was simply withdrawing from their currency. Viral one-liners from this scene. They renamed my grief and called it theirs, but the ghosts still answer to me. I don't need revenge loud. I just need it done. When a mother goes quiet, it's never surrender, it's reconstruction. Some stories end with applause. Some with wreckage. Mine ended with a window. And on the other side of that glass stood the woman who once stole my face. The invitation wasn't public. It was a square envelope. Thick paper. Hand-delivered. ASH Language, private showcase. By appointment only. No phones. No flash. Just fabric. And the truth stitched into it. It was held at an old railway station turned warehouse in downtown LA. Raw brick walls. Hanging bulbs. Music that didn't try to impress you. Just a space where the silence could speak loud enough. I wore white. Not because I'd forgiven everything. But because I didn't carry it anymore. And I wanted them to see. You can survive the fire. And still show up clean. The room filled slowly. Buyers. Writers. Stylists. No logo. No DJ. No hype. Just the clothes. And the story behind each one. Each piece had a tag. But instead of price, they listed a moment. Drawn after I gave my son the last bite of dinner. Sketched the night I walked home without a phone, praying I wouldn't be followed. Pattern made from the shape of a mother's shadow. People didn't speak. They read. And some of them cried. Across the room, I saw her. Maya. She wasn't on the guest list. But I let her stay. She stood in the corner. Wearing something beige and borrowed. Looking around like she was hunting for a version of herself she'd never actually earned. She didn't make a scene. Not this time. Because she knew now. This wasn't her story. And she no longer had the pen. A woman from Vogue stepped beside me. "I've never seen grief tailored like this," she whispered. "It's fierce." I smiled. Grief grows seams when you carry it long enough. At the end of the night, I walked to the display in the center. A single mannequin. Dressed in the original version of the jacket. My jacket. The one they'd renamed and claimed. This one still had the coffee stain on the hem. The original stitching on the collar Leo had once traced with his finger. Maya approached slowly. I didn't know how deep it all went, she said. I nodded. You weren't supposed to. You never asked. She swallowed. You could have exposed me. I didn't need to. I turned to her. You wore a fire you didn't start. And it burned you anyway. She left before the final light dimmed. And I didn't watch her go. Because the thing about thieves is, they never steal the weight of what they take. They only carry the illusion. And illusions don't last past the runway. 3 weeks later, Zenith officially launched Ash language into its flagship stores. The campaign featured no faces. Just hands. Hands sewing. Hands drawing. Hands holding tiny fingers. Hands like mine. My apartment is still small. But the walls are warmer now. Leo has a corner for his fabrics. He made a hoodie for the neighbor's cat. I framed the first sketch I ever drew. The one I almost let them erase. It hangs by the front door. So I never forget. Sometimes people ask why I never sued Maya. Why I never dragged Volt. Why I didn't scream louder. And I always say the same thing. Because I don't want their apology. I wanted their absence. And now I have it. Mic drop final line. She wore my jacket once. Now she wears my silence, and it fits her like guilt. Viral one-liners from this scene. You stole my pain to play pretend, but I stitched it into permanence. She walked in wearing beige. She walked out seeing red, and none of it was hers. I didn't destroy her. I replaced her. And that was louder.